Hello everyone, this is Tim, and this is going to be a summary of the 4th session of the A Song of Ice and Fire campaign that I'm in currently, and that is dealing with House Roderick. As I've talked about in the other videos, Eunice, aka Hammered Shitsteak, Rohir, aka Rajab 1, and Zig Copacetic are in the campaign. Zig is the GM. So we started off finding out what had transpired back at Bearhold with Rohir's character, Alina. What she had done in her absence, what had gone on. Since Rohir wasn't able to come in the last session, we wanted to find out what he did. So Alina had told Marianne, her younger sister, to spend time with Alyssa Woodtower because she felt like we weren't being very good hosts to her. She wanted to, be more pleasant and just have her enjoy her time here. Nathan was told to find out information on John Arrand, who is the now dead hand of the king, King Baratheon. Robert Baratheon. Edgum was told to look to the defenses, since Alina thinks that perhaps House Rain or House Mormont is going to descend upon us and really deal some violence to us because of the choices and actions done by our father. In addition to this, Alina started interviewing the staff and the peasants around the household to sort of weasel out if there's any informants, any spies that are in the area. People that she might not necessarily trust, but they might be in and amongst her family, and she wants to try to find out if there's a weasel, if there's a little birds that are listening to everything that we say. So she did a lot of that. In addition to that, she was looking for anyone perhaps that could be hired on as a spy. And so she's trying to set up like a spy network to send out into other houses, find out what's going on, doing some espionage basically. At least the first baby steps of that. So I'm curious to see how that's going to work out, what kind of informants she gets, and if any of them betray her in the end, because that kind of stuff happens with that sort of thing. Double agents, as it were, So there was a woman also that was there talking to Alina, by the name of Lillian Rivers, and she had a knight with her that is nicknamed Silence. It seems that he can't speak at all. It sounds like he doesn't have a tongue, and she was telling him how one of her relatives basically took her. She was going to be the heir of the house, and she has a son who was going to be the heir, but another one of her relatives took over and is really close with the Lannisters, and he has a lot of power now, and there just seems like there's no way possible of achieving her birthright, achieving that birthright for her child. So, and as we were talking, after the campaign, I didn't even realize this is Rohir's character from the first campaign, and it totally went over my head. My character Burton, we talked about at the end of the campaign, had a illegitimate child with the wife of the dead lord, and no one knows it but Burton, but he is supporting that child as the new heir. And Rohir's old character basically was kicked out, disinherited, and so now she has come north to Bear Island and has found her way here to just find a place to live. So that was really wild. I didn't catch that at all. I'm kind of dense on a player. But Zig weaved that in really nicely, and Rohir picked up on it right away. So that was very cool. And Lillian seems like she's wants to be very helpful. She'll do anything for us because she's found a home again. That's where other than being out in the streets, she used to be a lady. Now she's just who she is. She's doing the best she can. Let's see here. So she learned a little bit of detail about Lillian's past, about her father dying, these sorts of things. So in addition to that, Alina was having trouble with Amma Bravehan. She is the steward, master of coin for our house. And there seems to be some sort of clashing going on because Alina had been in charge. Their father was gone, Marcus was gone, Almer was going basically over in the Wood Tower lands, and he was running things there. And she was a female in charge, and Alma is also a very prominent female in the house. And there seemed to be some static because of that, some problems that weren't there before. So we'll see how that turns out. We'll switch over focus to my character Brander now, who was having this strange dream in the Northlands. There was wind, whipping across his face, and there was cold and ice. And one of his black brothers, Mord, was just out of sight. He'd just gone. Couldn't get a hold of him, couldn't grab him. And as I was lost in the blizzard, there was this silhouette, this dark shape moving slowly towards. And I'm just going to talk about it in the first person. I notice these videos I go back and forth, but so this silhouette was coming right at me, and not really sure what was going on. I started moving towards it, and these blue eyes were just staring at me. These blue within blue, just glowing eyes in the blizzard. I ran away, screaming. Found this crevice and worked my way down to it. Found a cave. Crawled into it, and it seemed like there was maybe somebody there before or there currently. It was hard to tell. It was very surreal, but there was a campsite there in the cave that had been used. There was a voice asking me, who was I? Who are you? And Brander wasn't really sure how to take that, but that silhouette was coming from behind him, those blue within blue eyes. There was a fight, a scuffle with this creature. It started to eat away at Brander's face. It was taking large chomps out of his nose and his cheeks. And the scene sort of shifted. Can't talk. And then it's as if I was seeing my own corpse there lying in the snow, as if it was an out-of-body experience. There was the other voice again asking me, who are you? What's going on? And then Brander woke up. Alessa Wood Tower had woken up beside Marcus's character. They had spent the night together, and Eunice had spent a point to make sure that the girl got pregnant, so he wanted to make sure that was in there. It's sort of like a fate point thing, destiny point in this game. I did that in the last campaign too. But she's pregnant, but she was just in wonderment. She woke up just bubbling with excitement, happy. She seemed just filled full of joy. But they did talk a lot about trying to keep things under wraps, not trying to spread the rumors around that they had spent the night together. And it was just at that moment when the door started knocking. The servant girls were there. Marianne was there because Alina had told her to be nice to Alessa, to give her a feeling of home here while her home is in disarray. So Marcus hightailed it out the window. He climbed out. He wasn't really too concerned about what people saw of him doing. He sort of struts around and doing all kinds of different things around the lands that they have, their estate. So he like power walks everywhere. He just got out and just did his own thing, and everyone sort of got out of his way and didn't really ask him too many questions. And before he did that, he told Alessa that he wasn't looking forward to seeing his father again, because father had returned from the bear hunt. Let's see here. In addition to that, he also got a lock of Alessa's hair. Or maybe not. I missed that part. I think Wes was screaming in my ear. At breakfast time, Brander was sitting next to Nathan because he sort of has a connection with them. They're both bookworms, and they talk a lot about the past and opinions on various, forgotten tomes of lore. Everyone was there at the breakfast table except for Edgum, and even though he had problems with his younger brother, Brander decided that it would be in his best interest, probably the family's interest, if everyone was at the table when their father arrived, so he went to go find him. He questioned some servants who were giggling about what was going on, pushed one up against a wall, found out that Edgum had spent the night with one of the servants. Let's see here. Edgum, like he always does, was throwing insults at Brander. There was a partially naked woman there beside him, the servant, and Brander could tell that she wasn't happy. She didn't enjoy the experience. She was terrified, but the fear of his brother got the best of him. But he told his brother Edgum that he should come to breakfast. And Edgum had this sheet with blood all over it from deflowering the girl, and he just had this look on his face like he was up to no good. But Brander kind of walked away from that situation and went back to breakfast, and eventually Edgum showed up. As they were sitting down for breakfast, Omsler, this is the wildling from beyond the wall that came back with my character Brander when he was done spending his time there, because Brander never said the words. But he is our father's huntsman, and he was on this bear hunt with father. And he basically told them all that father was sharpening his sword at the blacksmith's place. And it seemed kind of strange to us. We all kind of expected him to come in and greet his family, but the first thing he wanted to do was sharpen his sword. So everyone was sort of, whoa, what do we do now? Because sometimes if we go to see him, he's angry, and if we wait, he's angry. So no one knew what to do. Marcus made the decision, though, as the eldest. He stood up and said that he's going to go talk to father, and Edgum and Brander also went down to meet him. Lena stayed with the younger siblings, as a position of a female to sort of keep them in line, making sure nothing bad happened while they were gone. And I kind of felt bad because Rohir kind of missed out on some of the things that happened afterwards, but there was a huge chained bear that was being dragged into the bear pit at this time from the hunt. They had caught a live bear. That was the whole purpose of their hunt. And the bear pit is very influential in our house. That's where the criminals go. That's sort of an entertainment. And it also challenges people, and those that survive become a member of the Iron Claws. But that bear was being dragged there, and father was grinding this huge sword on this sharpening wheel, and his silent assistant Sim was there as well, sort of as a confidant and tactician, that sort of thing. So he's grinding, just grinding his sword with his back towards us, and we all sort of were scared and not really sure how to go about anything, and Marcus was the first one to move forward. Edgum was grinning kind of evilly the whole time, and basically telling Marcus that he should go first. After you. I guess Sir Polar, they learned, was injured by the bear while they were gathering it up. That's the knight that's in the house's employ. Let's see here. Father wasn't happy about the prisoners dying. That was one of the first things he said to Marcus. The prisoners from the Wood Tower lands that Marcus had basically executed and thrown into a mass grave. So father was sort of distant and just throwing small questions out. It seemed like he was mostly focused on his sword. He didn't really care much for his family being there. Marcus told father that he told Almer to change his tactics to be more kind, and father wasn't happy about that either. Probably because father had told Almer, take these people and do whatever you want with them. We still never learned what orders were specifically given to Almer, which is Marcus's younger brother. But father basically replied that in his absence, he's doing his own thing. He's coming up with his own ways of doing things and handling things, and we couldn't tell if he was happy about things all the way or not. He was being very vague, and that made our characters very, very worried. Father is known to do some rash things when he's like that. Marcus told about the heir's look-alike being released, so that they can follow that guy and perhaps find the male heir of House Wood Tower and kill him. That's one of the plans that Marcus has in motion right now. And father seemed very excited about that. He was also excited about the fact that Alyssa Woodtower, the second in line, is in their control. Marcus basically put his seal on her, basically saying that she was his, and Father didn't like that at all. He was basically saying that the father was the house Roderick, not you. You're just one of my get. It's not passing to you yet. I'm still here. This woman is mine. So there was this fight of wills between Marcus and our father. Edgum was starting saying horrible things like that Alyssa was a whore, and he had the sheets, and he held up these bloody sheets, like the fact that she had slept with Marcus, and Marcus didn't deny it, and that pissed off Father even more, that the woman that he wanted, his son had already had. And again, it was just like this pissing contest between the two of them, father versus son. He didn't like that Marcus was playing the leader in his absence, even though he had been gone for a month hunting. He told Sim to start the wheel again, and there was this sort of tone in his voice that made it sound like that was not a good thing. The sharpening wheel spinning quicker and quicker and quicker. Father was reaching out his hand to grab Marcus's head and try to pull his face towards the sharpening wheel. He was going to do the same thing with Marcus's face as he was doing with the sword, grinding it. But this is when Marcus headbutted Father, like, BAM! Like right in the nose. And he did it strong enough that the Father backed up. This is when Marcus was tackled by me. Brander just ran forward, sort of having his loyalties divided, loving his father and hating his father, and trying to keep his brother Marcus out of trouble. You'd already headbutted Father. Let's not have this go any further, So Brander just collapsed into him, gripped onto his legs, and the scene was so traumatic for him, he sort of zoned out. He went into his own world. Just locked within himself, just grabbing onto Marcus's legs as hard as he could. And, I don't know, he's being rash but trying to do good, and he was confused. That's pretty much who Brander is. And this is great. I love when Zig does this. I described it as going into his own world, and then a vision started. That's what happens with Brander. There was a fireplace. The fire was crackling. Brander's body was lying on the ground by the fire, and there was also that walking corpse that was there, but the eyes had gone out. I forgot to tell you that Brander stabbed out the eyes with his thumb in the vision. But there was someone else there too, perhaps standing beside us or sitting beside us, and I had like a disembodied look at the scene. I wasn't looking through Brander's eyes anymore. Brander was dead, so it was this like out of body shot again of my body, this withered creature's body, this person, and yet knowing that there was someone else there, even though I didn't see them. So that was creepy, I think Zig's really scared I'm going to figure something out about what's going on with these, but like I said, I'm a pretty dense player sometimes. Things go right over my head. So I have no idea what's going on, but I like the sound of it. I'm curious to see how this is all going to turn out. So back at the scene in the blacksmith, Marcus was being dragged by his hair by Father over to the spinning sword sharpening wheel. And Brander had him by the legs. Father pushed his face right into it, right into his cheek. So a big chunk of his face was being just spun off by this wheel, and Marcus didn't let out a sound. He didn't want to give Father the satisfaction of hearing a cry or a scream. Nothing. There was no sound at all. The wheel turned red from the blood of his cheek. And Edgum actually stood up for Marcus here. He said, "You're going to kill him! You're going to kill him, Father!" And Marcus even started to think that perhaps Father was going to try to kill him. Maybe, like his older brother, it was his turn. Marcus broke free of Father and Brander at the same time. A lot of great dice rolling by Eunice there. He stole Father's sword, the one he was just sharpening. and broke his arm with it, one of his arms. This is when Sim stopped and backed up. This is the confidant of Father, sort of shocked. Edgum was the same way. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. One of Father's arms was broken, and it looked useless at this point. There were a couple citizens who were watching this, and Brander wasn't sure what to do, so he took care of them. He thought, these are witnesses to what might happen. If Marcus kills Father, he didn't want any witnesses to that at all. So he collected up the peasants and told them he had some seats for them at the bear pit, where they'd be able to see and whatever. He used his nobility, even though he's a bastard, to his benefit. And he went up to the side of the bear pit, showed them some seats, and then pushed them an entirely different way into the bear pit where a fresh bear was. And to piss off the bear, Brander ripped off some chairs and just hurled it at the beast's head until eventually got pissed off enough to kill those two bystanders that had saw what they shouldn't have seen. So in Brander's mind, Marcus is totally killing Dad right now. I need to take care of this. So he started walking back to the blacksmith's place. So back there, Marcus had decided that things had gone far enough. Father had said, are you going to be a kinslayer now? And that was enough to sort of snap Marcus out of it, out of his rage. Marcus stormed off. So Brander comes back to the scene where, Father's arm's broken and useless. The sword's there. Sim and Edgum are standing around, not really sure what to do. And Brander just moved up to him and took the sword and held him at sword point. Not really sure what to do here. I think Brander was afraid of what Father was going to do, especially to Marcus, to himself, maybe to the entire family. He was known to go into rages. So I was role-playing him being very unsure of himself, wanting to do something, not knowing what that is. Should I kill Father? Should I walk away and take the punishment? All of these things were going through his head. I just killed 2 people to prevent what didn't happen. And I think Brander had a moment of joy there, like Father is never going to hurt me again. And then when he came around and saw him there, it all came rushing back. So there's lots of emotions and feelings going through his head. And he's sitting, he's standing there with the sword at his father, being unsure, asking him questions like, why? Why did you do all this? Father is basically just calling him weak and a bastard. Give me the sword. He was at sword point, and he still couldn't pretend that he cared for his son. He was, his son was worthless to him. At least that's the way he always portrayed it. So Brander told Sim and Edgum to get out of here. You're next. Go get Alina. Bring her here now. Tell her to come here now. So Brander was left with his father, sword in hand, and Father kept trying to take the sword away from Brander, but his arm was worthless. He was his offhand that was trying to grab the blade, and Brander wasn't having any of it. He was crying. He was screaming at him. Calling him like an asshole, and what. All these things were just pouring out of his mouth. The memories of all the times that he was in the infirmary, all the times his arms and legs had been broken by Father. So just a cavalcade of emotions and thoughts. So eventually, Alina showed up at the scene. And Rohir later would say that the thoughts that were going through Alina's head were she had just seen Marianne, the youngest girl, with a very serious look of fear on her face when they had learned that Father was coming home. And she didn't want Marianne to be that way. Alina remembered when she was young, how scared she was of Father returning home. So in her mind, she made the decision. She heard Brander, asking, "What should I do? What should I do?" Just unsure of himself. And she told him, "You have the power in your hand. Use it. Use it now." And Brander just started screaming, "Die, motherfucker! Die! Die! Die!" Just like stabbing him over and over again in the face. in his mouth, breaking teeth off with the front of the sword. The blade coming out the back of his neck and stabbing into his head, and it's pretty brutal. So, one thing that they noticed during this part of the game, this scene, is that Sim had disappeared. He didn't go get Alina. It was only Edgum that got Alina. So that's a little loose thread in this whole business. Yeah, so that happened, and there was this moment where after that, Brander was again just locked in himself. Alina had to take charge. She took Father's ring off of his hand. Oh, that's right. Before he killed him, Brander cut off one of his father's hands because he didn't like, he just thought that hand's never going to hurt me again. So like I said, Alina got the ring from Father, and Brander collected the hand and put it in his pocket, and carried Father's body on his shoulder and ran as fast as he could to the bear pit. He wanted to get away from Alina. He didn't want her to have any problems because of his actions. So Brander stripped down naked and climbed down into the bear pit, falling because he was trying to hold Father's body at the same time. The bear had recently just killed and ate 2 people, or was playing with their corpses. Father's sword was laying in there as well. And Brander just started to hack apart his father. He cut off his head. He cut off his arms and was hurling the chunks, hurling the head at the bear, trying to piss it off. And it was starting to get that way, but it was a new bear. It was in a strange surrounding. It really didn't know what to do here. At one point, Brander just went around the bear and was just hacking the head of his father repeatedly over and over again, laughing maniacally. And there were maybe some bystanders around that were watching this. And this is when the bear finally just like clawed the side of Brander and knocked him over. But again, it wasn't as aggressive as it probably could have been. It's just not really sure what's happening. It was just thrown down here. So there's this scene we sort of ended with Brander holding the sword, the bear coming at him, and then we switched focus. So that's going to happen. That scene's going to end in the next session. Marcus went to Alyssa Woodtower, and she saw the huge chunk of flesh missing out of his face, blood running down him. She was stressed and worried, but Marcus's words comforted her. He bandaged himself up, and she helped. She was very worried, and they just they spent their time together. Nathan eventually was told by Alina to go find Marcus and to meet in the common room where they just had breakfast. And Nathan eventually collected Marcus up. When Marcus heard the knocks on the door, he thought that Father's troops were coming to arrest him for assaulting his father. So when he opened the door and little Nathan was there, he was kind of surprised. And Nathan told him about the family meeting, and Marcus asked, "Is Father there?" And Nathan said that he's not, and he most likely never will again. So Marcus was like, "Wait, what happened?" Because he walked away before Brander killed. He didn't even realize that. So at the meeting, Alina gave Marcus their father's ring. Said just set the ring right down in front of them, and said that Brander had killed their father. And the last that she knew of anything, he was heading towards the bear pit with Father's body. And the way she described Brander's action was, Brander had one of his moments again, because Brander he lapses into these violent streaks of mayhem sometimes on the battlefield, or in melees and such at combats. So Marcus's question to her was, is it finally over? Is it finally done? Meaning that Father will never run their lives again, will never mistreat them. So it sounds like they were all going to head to the bear pit at this point. So Brander's fighting the bear in the bear pit, naked, covered in his father's blood. His father's body is hacked to pieces all around him. And his brothers and sisters are coming to see the show. So that's where we left off. That was sort of the cliffhanger at the end of the session. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens next time we play. Will Brander survive? He has one destiny point left, so, you know, if it comes down to it, I guess I got to burn that off. But we'll see how it goes. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.